Good morning for all the lecturers. Thank you for the time. My name is Soraya Souisa. Now I'm going to explain and present my proposal entitled Investigating the Process of Writing Poetry by the Students in Creative Writing Class at English Education Study Program. According to Malay 2012, creative writing refers to the production of aesthetic text. Malay also claims that it deals more in the imaginative representation of emotion, events, character, and experience than in fact. Unlike academic writing that teach students to compose work based on the rules of the language, creative writing is believed to focus on students' self-expressions. The students are given opportunity to express their idea, imagination, which give chance to express themselves. The term creative writing suggests imaginative tasks such as writing poetry, stories, and plays. In this research, I only focus on the investigating the process of writing poetry by the students in creative writing class at English Education Study Program. Besides that, Kierkegaard's 2014 finds that poems contribute significantly to the improvement of learners' creativity in writing. The process of manipulating the language increases students to confidence in using the language creatively and meaningfully. So, LIDA 2016 says that the students struggle with the situation in which they want to express their opinion in imagination, but they do not understand to do so in English. So, based on the statement by the LIDA 2016, uh, my experience and the result of interviews with some of my friends who have finished taking creative writing and language education poetry class, we are so struggle. Writing poetry is not simple as we think. Even more so for students whose first language is not English, so they have to write in their first language and then translate it into English. Besides that, Bahri 2020 finds that the students are challenging in learning poetry because it's word choice and literary phrases. Another thing that becomes a challenge for students in translating poetry from their first language to English is the difficulty in choosing words to determine the rhyme, rhythm, and tune. In English Education Study Program, literature becomes one of the subjects in the study program. The students are required to complete literature class such as literature in language education, creative writing in language education poetry, creative writing in language education short story, and creative writing in language education drama. Poetry becomes one of the literature subjects that should be taught by the students. This class is required for the students because after passing literature in language education, students can take the creative writing class, poetry class, short story class, and drama class. In poetry class, the students are given an opportunity to learn about poetry. They will learn to how analyze and read and also create poetry. So, based on the previous study was conducted by Vera Sulastri Ratusara Pujasari 2019, How Do I Write Poetry? Investigating Students' Creative in Writing Poetry, and preliminary study I inspire and initiate to conduct the same study but in different instrument of data collection and participant entitled Investigating the Process of Writing Poetry by the Students in Creative Writing Class at English Education Study Program to know more about the process of writing poetry in English foreign language, especially in English Education Study Program at Patimura University. Next is focus on study. I focus the focus on study. Focus on study. In this research, I focus on the process of writing poetry by the students and the challenge faced in doing the creative process of writing poetry. This research have two research questions. For the first one is how the process of writing poetry by the students in writing poetry class. And the second one is what are the challenges faced in doing the creative process in writing poetry. Objective of the study. The aims of the study are in line with research question formulated. For the first one is to describe the process of writing poetry by the students in writing poetry class. And the second one is to explain the challenges faced in doing the creative process of writing class. For significance of the study, I expect can give big contribution in education field. First one is for the students, the second one for the lecture, and for English study program, and the last for fourth-year researcher. Scope and limitation. The study only focused on the process of writing poetry by the students in creative writing class at English education study program. The participants of this research are the students at fourth semester, class of 2020, who are taking creative writing in language education poetry class. So the instrument of this research are questionnaire as the main instrument. The definition of writing. Based on the definition by the expert above, I conclude that writing is productive process which construct a paragraph or text by compile and integrated information through some stage. It is considered as the most difficult skill in language teaching and learning process. There are two types of writing in general. There are academic writing and creative writing. The difference of these two types can be seen from the purpose of writing. Academic writing is purpose to inform or to teach the reader based on fact. It must be organized and formatted well. Meanwhile, based on Melee 2020 says that creative writing is an aesthetically motivated personal activity. Through creative writing, the reader can express his opinions, ideas, or emotion. Other different things of these two types of writing is their word choice or diction. Teaching literature in English foreign language context. There are a lot of expressions that define definition of literature in English foreign language content. One of them is from Moody to 1962 says that literature springs from human inborn love of telling a story or arranging words in pleasing pattern of expressing in words some special aspect of human experience. The students have an opportunity to use their imagination, develop their critical thinking, and develop culture awareness and increase their vocabulary. Through literature, the teacher also can manage the class into students' talking time or student center. The next is about creative writing. According to Melee 2012, creative writing is an aesthetically motivated personal activity. Unlike academic writing that teaches the student to compose work based on the rules of the language, creative writing is believed to focus on students' experience expression. Melee 2012 says that the text of creative writing takes form of literature such as poems and stories. Therefore, there are three big types of creative writing that taught in education field. They are poetry, prose, and drama. So I can conclude that creative writing refers to a piece of work that expresses thoughts, ideas, and feelings in an imaginative way. The definition of poetry. According to Bennett and Christopher 2011, poetry can be considered as an oral and written art form that use high sense of language to convey experience, feelings, or modes of consequence. Types of poetry. So there are many types of poetry used in the world. In my proposal, I put 5 types of simple pattern poems suggested by Holmes and Moulton 2001. They taught it in Creative Writing Poetry Class B at English Education Study Program at Patimura University. The next is elements of poetry. There are several elements which make up a good poem. The first one is sound, second one is imagery, and the last one is figurative language. So, creative writing class, poetry becomes one of the literature subjects that should be taught by the students in English Education Study Program Unpati. This class is required for the students because after passing this poetry class, they will take short story class and then drama class. In poetry class, the students are given an opportunity to learn about poetry. They will learn how to analyze, read, and create poetry. For the process in writing poetry, based on Chinese poet Li Po, Tang Dynasty, she said every poet has different writing experience. On writing poetry, poets, no matter when or where they should be, the fact that experience they have in life's difference forms the way a poem is developed. Also, Curwood 2005 assumes that the creative process of writing includes 4 stages: making choice about stance, content, structure, and language, creating connection and combination between ideas and image. The next is challenge in writing poetry. I have to challenge in writing poetry based on my proposal. For the first one is lack of vocabulary, and the second is figurative language. Relevance preview study. Based on, I have 3 previous study. For the first one by Vera Sulastri, Ratusara Pujasari, 2019, How Do I Write Poetry? Investigating Students' Creative in Writing Poetry. The second by Rahma Fitriani, Poetry Writing in English Foreign Language Classroom, Learning from Indonesian Student Strategy, Universitas Islam Sumatera Utara. And the last one is Hafiz 2018 with the title Students' Perception on the Use of Poetry in a Literary Appreciation Class. Research method. According to Gassi, Mills, and Irration 2012, that survey is a method that used to collect the data to test hypotheses or to answer questions about people's opinions on some topic or issue. Besides that, Robert et al. 2004 says that survey is a systematic method for collecting or gathering information from a sample or population with the purpose to construct statistic data or information. So based on the definition above, I use survey as the method to know students' process in writing poetry. That's all from my presentation, and thank you for your attention.